Hi, this is Gary D. Toniquette from morethanasnapshot.com. I'd like to invite you to watch this week's critique session, and we have some wonderful images from the participants in my class. And we start off here with a nice Christmas-themed image, and the person was working with bokeh and making these star shapes. And I think it's a really cool image. I love Christmas, I like Christmas images. And he did a good job setting it up. I like the bokeh stars, they look cool. The lighting looks pretty good on this image. And the only criticism might be that I think parts of the building are sharp, but maybe it needed more depth of field, because it seems like the trees are not sharp. But the stars look nice and crisp. So overall, a good job, and keep practicing. It's a wonderful technique to make some interesting images. And I think that the exposure was pretty good. Might be able to bring it up just a little bit. We don't want to overexpose it and make it too bright, but I think it looks nice. All right, here we have a nice close-up wildlife type image. And if we zoom in, we can see that it's nice and sharp. You can see all the feather detail. The eye is sharp. And it's very nice. I really like this one. Great job. Composition-wise, the only suggestion I would have is it seems to be a little bit crowded to the right side, and there's a lot of extra space on the left side. So it would be nice maybe to give it a little more room on this side and not have the beak exit right on this corner. But as far as the image capture itself, like I said, the exposure looks nice and the sharpness is great. If I look here in this white area, it's not missing detail, but it's a little bit hot. So I would take down the highlights. Whoops, not that much. And just by taking down the highlights a bit, you can see some more feather detail here. And that's important. When you shoot something white, you really have to be careful, especially if it's got important detail like feathers, not to overexpose it. Okay, here we have a nice cat image, and it does seem to be in sharp focus. But we have a big problem here. See this area right here? It's way overexposed because sunlight must have been coming in through the window. You can see here, all that area is burnt out. So you got to watch out for things like that. What else? Also, you know, if you can, it's always good to be at eye level with your subject. It is a bit overexposed, and it would be nice to be at eye level. All right, here we have another cool shot. Again, sort of the same problem where shooting down on the bird, it would be nicer to be at their eye level. If you have a bird on the ground, you want to get on the ground. If you have a bird up in the tree, you want to get as high as you can to be at eye level. It looks sort of, especially shooting down on an animal subject, it looks sort of amateurish when you shoot down on them. But as far as your composition and your sharpness looks good. The only thing you would have to worry about here is you clipping off some of the feathers at the top. It is nice and sharp, but you do have a little bit of overexposure in your whites again. Always take that extra security shot. Take one where you think it's the right exposure, and if it's got feathers or some detail that could be overexposed, take another shot like at 1/3 of a stop darker, or maybe 2/3 of a stop darker, just to make sure you have a shot where you can recover those whites. In this case, the highlight slider seems to have recovered that detail pretty well because it was pretty close to being correct right from the get-go. Here we have a shot with some processing, some grungy looking processing. And I think it does look kind of cool on this shot. It's really not really overexposed. That grungy effect with all the sharpening that it does creates that little bit of overexposure that's there. Let me turn that off so you can see the shot a little bit better. I think maybe it works for this shot, but it looks, sometimes this kind of effect can look overdone. Composition-wise, you've got a merger here between the tree and this walkway. And so you also have to ask yourself, is this shot about the tree or is it about the walkway? So maybe find another angle where you're just isolating the tree and not including the walkway. Or find a composition where the walkway and the tree work well together. Here they're sort of conflicting. Here's a cool shot. Again, the crispiness might work for this shot because you're really bringing out the detail in the leaves. It's a nice pattern shot, but I think to get that sort of pattern look, you have to get rid of some of this sky back here. So let's crop it and concentrate more on whatever kind of pattern you want to make. It could just be that pattern. It could be a pattern that includes more of that. I think let's see. I think I like that pattern. And it is a bit overexposed. Excuse me. And bringing back the highlights this time is probably not going to be enough all of its own. It was quite overexposed, and that treatment really accentuates that. Okay, here we have another one of these, I don't know what kind of bird it is, but this one I like much better. This time you are down at eye level, and I think the shot is in focus. It is slightly overexposed, and so we would take in the highlights. And I'm not sure that I like the grungy effect on this bird. But I would pump up the mid-tones there a little bit. And your background goes out of focus over here, but we can see all the grass pretty clearly here. I would maybe try to blur the grass out a bit in Photoshop or something, so that that's a little bit less distracting. I don't know what f-stop you took it at, but here's a case. It's rare to go for less depth of field, but I think if you had opened up your f-stop, and it would have concentrated the focus more on the face of the bird, and even on the front of the bird is fine, but we may have a little bit too much focus going into the grass here. Here we have a nice black and white shot. I really like the half circle shape, and I like that it's done in black and white. Works well for this image. Very minor bit of overexposure, so I'd pull in the highlights just a little bit. Here, let's check out the contrast. It's interesting with less contrast too. But I think I like a lot of contrast, so I think I'll give it just a little bit of contrast, a little extra contrast. Let's see the before and after. Yeah, just a touch of contrast and a little bit of the highlight being pulled back. But good job, it's an interesting image. Here we have what looks like probably an engagement type shot. And it's pretty cool. I'm sure the couple would like this sort of shot. A little bit overexposed. I'd pull in the highlights a bit, and in this case, I think this shot definitely needs contrast. See the blacks over here? This could be pushed to the left more, and that would deepen the blacks in the photo quite a bit. And I don't know what that thing in the background is, something in the water. That is a bit distracting. And it looks like you cloned something with this clone tool because you can see the circular clone mark. So if you have Photoshop Elements or Photoshop, you can do a better job of cloning with tools that are in there. And while you're at it, I'd probably clone out whatever this thing is back here. I'm not sure that we need all that sky, but I can see what you're going for with this part of the image, but not bad. Good job. Oh, okay. I think this is the last image, and this one is pretty cool. I like the sort of moody tone to the image, and it looks cool in black and white. You can see here that the exposure ends long before we get to this line. This line is our exposure mark that we're trying to hit. So it is a tad underexposed. We can just bump that up a bit. I could do it right from the mid-tones here, or I could do it with the slider down here. And I'm trying to get that line to be right about on this line. It did maybe bring the highlights a little bit hot, so I'll come down just a little bit. And if we zoom in, it doesn't look tack sharp, but it's close. You could probably get away with that. And I would say on a lighting perspective, you need a kicker light in the back to hit him either on the back of the head or on the back of the shoulders, and that would help separate the subject from the black background. Because right now a lot of his head is like totally blending into the background. And the lighting on him is a little bit what we might call Halloween lighting. If that's the effect you were going for, then that's fine. Then you might not need the kicker light in the background, and then your lighting is okay. But the reason we call it Halloween lighting is you can see we always look for the shadow around the nose. And the shadow around the nose here is going up. And usually with portrait lighting, it's never going up, it's always coming down. The loop lighting should go around the nose down here, or if it was on this side, it would be down here. And you can see the highlight in his eyes is at the bottom of his eyes. And it should be more upper left-hand corner or upper right-hand corner, not down here at the bottom. So, you know, good attempt. It's an interesting image, and like I said, if you were going for that Halloween effect, you pulled it off. That's a good lighting job. But if you were going for a normal black and white portrait kind of thing, you need to change the position of your main light to be higher, shooting more down on the person, and put a kicker light in the background. So that's it. It's a short week. We had a few good images, and I hope you enjoyed those critiques. If you would like to have your images critiqued, you can join my class by going to morethanasnapshot.com and sign up, and you can get 57 or so lessons to go through, plus weekly critiques, and I'm sure we can improve your photography quite a bit. So again, this has been Gary D. Tonicourt from morethanasnapshot.com.
If you like this video, please be sure to hit subscribe down at the bottom so you can see our future videos. Also, you might want to check out the show notes to see my other websites like morethanasnapshot.com, where you can take my online photography class. Also, like us on Facebook so you'll know what's new with morethanasnapshot.com.